Hello everyone and welcome back to Lost Worlds. Thanks for all the support over the past month. If you are new to the channel, please do not forget to subscribe. It encourages us to do more informative videos and AI reconstructions. Let's jump into the topic. In 1938 and again in 1939, the Indian National Congress, the organization leading India's independence movement, held elections for its president. Both times, the same man won. His name was Subhas Chandra Bose. He was a lawyer's son from Cuttack, educated at Cambridge, who had passed the Indian Civil Service examination and then immediately resigned because serving the empire that occupied his country was not something he was prepared to do. He was charismatic, brilliant, and completely committed to Indian independence. He was also, increasingly, at odds with the dominant leader of the independence movement, Mahatma Gandhi, over the question of how independence should be achieved. Gandhi believed in nonviolent resistance. Bose believed India had already waited long enough. The British government viewed him as one of the most dangerous men in India. They had imprisoned him 11 times. In January 1941, they placed him under house arrest in Calcutta. He was there for 8 days before he was gone. On the night of January 17, 1941, Bose walked out of his house dressed as a Pathan trader named Muhammad Ziauddin. British intelligence was watching the house. They didn't notice. What followed was one of the most extraordinary escape routes of the 20th century. He traveled by car to Gomo, by train to Peshawar, by car again through the tribal areas of the northwest frontier. Then, on foot and by car, across the Khyber Pass into Afghanistan. In Kabul, he made contact with the Italian and German embassies. Within weeks, traveling on a forged Italian passport as Orlando Mazzotta, he crossed Afghanistan, entered the Soviet Union, and made his way to Berlin. He had escaped British India. Now he needed to find allies powerful enough to end British rule. The only countries at war with Britain in 1941 were Germany, Italy, and Japan. He chose to work with all of them. Bose spent 2 years in Berlin. He was clear-eyed about what he was doing and why. He did not share Nazi ideology. He never expressed support for it, and his writings make his own political beliefs plain. He was a democratic socialist who wanted Indian independence. He sought German assistance for one reason only. Germany was at war with Britain, and Britain occupied India. He explained his position simply. The enemy of my enemy is my ally in war. In Berlin, he established Azad Hind Radio, broadcasting in Hindi, Bengali, Tamil, and other Indian languages directly into the subcontinent, calling on Indians to rise against British rule. He also formed the Indian Legion, a small force of Indian prisoners of war who volunteered to fight for Indian independence. It never reached India. Its military significance was limited, but Bose was already looking east. Japan had entered the war in December 1941. Japanese forces had swept through British Malaya and Singapore in weeks, capturing over 80,000 British and Commonwealth troops, one of the largest surrenders in British military history. Among those prisoners, tens of thousands of Indian soldiers. Bose understood immediately what this meant. In February 1943, Bose left Europe the only way he could, by submarine. He traveled from Kiel in Germany in a German U-boat, crossing the Atlantic and rounding the Cape of Good Hope. South of Madagascar, in the middle of the Indian Ocean, he transferred, in a small rubber dinghy, in open sea, to a Japanese submarine. The Japanese submarine delivered him to Sabang, off the northern tip of Sumatra. He arrived in Tokyo in May 1943. Japanese Prime Minister Hideki Tojo received him and publicly declared support for Indian independence. It was partly sincere, partly strategic. Japan needed Indian cooperation in Southeast Asia. For Bose, the calculation was the same as it had been in Berlin. use every available ally toward a single goal. He flew to Singapore, and there he found his army. In Singapore, Bose found the largest pool of potential soldiers he had ever had access to. Following the fall of Singapore in February 1942, over 40,000 Indian soldiers had been captured. Many had already joined an early version of the Indian National Army under a different commander. The organization was struggling, underfunded, under-equipped, uncertain of its purpose. Bose transformed it. He took command on July 4, 1943. He renamed the movement Azad Hind, Free India. He appointed himself Supreme Commander of the Indian National Army and head of the Provisional Government of Free India. He gave his first address to the assembled soldiers in Singapore with words that became the INA's rallying cry: "Give me blood, and I shall give you freedom." The army that assembled was remarkable for its time. It included women, the Rani of Jhansi Regiment, an all-women fighting unit, the first of its kind in Asia. It had its own currency, its own postage stamps, its own vision of what independent India would look like. At its peak, it numbered between 40,000 and 60,000 soldiers. On October 21, 1943, Bose declared the Provisional Government of Free India, Azad Hind. It was recognized by 9 governments, including Germany, Japan, Italy, and several Japanese-occupied Asian states. It issued its own currency and stamps. It had its own cabinet, its own army, its own foreign policy. Japan briefly handed over the Andaman and Nicobar Islands to the Provisional Government, the only territory it ever directly administered. Bose was careful to maintain the independence of the Azad Hind government from Japanese control. He pushed back against Japanese interference in INA affairs. He was not a puppet, but he was also not naive. He knew that without Japanese military support, the march on India was impossible. In early 1944, Japanese commanders agreed to a joint offensive. The goal: break through the British lines at Imphal and Kohima, enter India, and trigger a mass uprising against British rule. In March 1944, the INA crossed the border into India. On March 18th, INA forces entered Indian territory through the Burma border. On April 14th, 1944, the INA flag was raised at Moirang in Manipur. For the first time in history, the flag of a free India flew on Indian soil. The INA fought alongside Japanese forces toward Imphal and Kohima in what became one of the most brutal battles of the entire Pacific War. The British and Indian Army defenders held, and then the monsoon came. Japanese supply lines, already overstretched, collapsed under the rains. Food ran out. Disease spread through the INA ranks: typhus, malaria, dysentery. The Japanese offensive stalled and then reversed. The INA began to retreat. Bose did everything he could to hold the army together. He broadcast to his soldiers. He visited the front lines. He refused to accept that the campaign was over, but it was over. By 1945, with Japan's broader war collapsing, the INA disintegrated. The retreat through Burma was devastating. Disease, starvation, and combat reduced the INA from a force of tens of thousands to a fraction of its strength. Thousands died, not in battle, but from illness and exhaustion in the jungle. The British recaptured the ground that had been taken. The Andaman Islands reverted to British control. When Japan surrendered in August 1945, the INA dissolved. British India put the captured INA officers on trial for treason at the Red Fort in Delhi, the symbolic heart of Mughal and British power in India. The trials backfired spectacularly. The INA officers became heroes. Massive protests erupted across India. Lawyers including Jawaharlal Nehru, who would become India's first prime minister, defended the INA officers in court. The British quietly dropped most of the charges. The trials had shown, more clearly than any battle, that British moral authority in India was gone. On August 18, 1945, 3 days after Japan's surrender, Bose reportedly died from burns sustained in a plane crash at Taihoku Airfield in Taiwan. He was 48 years old. His ashes were taken to Japan, where they remain to this day, in the Renkoji Temple in Tokyo. But India was never entirely satisfied with this account. 3 separate Indian government commissions investigated his death over the following decades. The findings were contradictory. Files were sealed. Witness testimonies conflicted. The mystery was never conclusively resolved. Whether he died in that crash, or whether, as some believe, he survived and lived in obscurity for years afterward, the official Indian government position remains that he died on August 18, 1945. The question of what exactly happened that day is still officially open. India gained independence on August 15, 1947. Bose did not live to see it, or if he did, he saw it in secret. What historians broadly agree on is this: the Indian National Army trials and the massive wave of popular anger they triggered significantly accelerated the British decision to leave India. The British knew that if they could no longer rely on Indian soldiers to enforce their rule, and the INA had demonstrated they could not, then the empire in India was already over. In India today, Bose is Netaji, respected leader. His birthday, January 23rd, is celebrated as Parakram Diwas, the Day of Courage. He chose a harder path than most. He made alliances that history judges differently across different countries and perspectives. But the goal never changed. He wanted one thing, from the first day to the last: a free India. Subscribe to @LostWorlds9 for more content, and do let us know what we should reconstruct next. See you soon.